gears a minute was I was able to go and record the Spurs Show, which is a podcast I've been running for 9 years now. That I learned talking to Mike, who hosts the show, and I'm in the lobby and I'm waiting and I'm thinking, okay, it's going to be the usual cast of characters, and these guys have been around a long time and they can be pretty brash, and I wasn't nervous, but I was trying to prepare myself on how I was going to talk, because their show is geared a little bit different than this one. For me, it's a little more corporate because they've been around so much longer. You know, they have a very distinct style, and they don't mind taking the piss out of the club when the club deserves to have the piss taken out of them. So I was trying to prepare myself on how I was going to interact with everybody. And then Mike showed up about 10 minutes after I had gotten to the studio, and we introduced ourselves and talked with one another. And he said, well, none of the other guys are coming today, but Julie's going to come. And I said, Julie Welch? And he said, yeah, Julie Welch. And I was like,
oh, nice.
That's awesome.
I thought you knew. That's cool.
No, I didn't.
Nice surprise there.
That was an absolute dream. And then she walked in.
You hadn't met her up to that point, had you?
I hadn't.
Cool.
We talked to her on Skype. We've had her on the show, but hadn't met her. And she walked in the door and just brightened the place up immediately. Got a nice selfie with her, and I put that on Twitter, and we talked for a bit and did the show with one another. And then she stayed after a little bit, and we talked a little further, and then Mike invited me down to the pub that was right underneath the studio there, and we had a couple of pints, and we talked about, you know, me starting a new podcast and over here in the States, and how difficult the challenges are compared to over there. You know, they have a sound engineer, and they don't have to really touch any of the stuff that we have to mess with and worry about losing recordings and all that. So
one day, I have a dream. I have a dream.
I don't know, man. I don't know. We'll see. But that was just a brilliant experience. And I walk out of there, and I'm heading back to my hotel that night, and I'm just pinching myself.
Oh, I bet.
Like, that just happened, and I couldn't believe it. And then the feedback we got from the show was amazing. You know, that, hey, the guy from America came on, and he actually sounded like he halfway knew what he was talking about. And
yeah, I listened. That was a good show. That was a good show. I thought it was a great show, and it was really, it was very good. I mean, their show is because they I mean, 45 minutes, bing bang boom, they're done. Right?
Yeah, they don't mess around. They don't mess around. The points, and I mean, they don't dilly dally around and beat around the bush. And you know, we're different. It's, you know, like I said, theirs is, it's in a studio, it's regimented, and the reason they do it, I found out, is that studio houses about 4 different podcasts from local people there that do not only Spurs, but there's a Manchester United one that comes in, there's an Arsenal one that comes in, there's an Everton one that comes in.
Oh, wow.
And I think maybe Chelsea. So they have different people that come in and they rotate, you know, basically their time slot to do the recording. But that was a lot of fun. And then, of course, you know, you guys showed up on Thursday and just pissed all over the sunshine that I was enjoying for an entire week.
The chairman and I, we rolled in there. Was it Thursday?
Thursday.
Yeah, the Wednesday night flight, got there Thursday, and then you guys got to spend it to work. But you guys were together on that Thursday. Yeah. Did you guys do anything memorable that day? I think it probably
absolutely. Apart from getting soaking wet, the good thing is, you know, I wanted to show Ken some of the stuff of London that is not the normal touristy stuff. So we kind of went deep into the bowels of the city of London and did some of that stuff, particularly the old Great Fire of London era pubs, Cheshire Cheese, Ye Olde Watling, stuff like that. And it tended to be mostly pubs since it was raining. We went to the Blackfriars. It's a quality little pub right there up by the Blackfriars tube station. Yep. And it was just a great day despite the weather. My mate Steve came along with us. He was a Cockney lad, and we had a great day, particularly when we were in the back of the Courts of Justice, and a bicycle courier went past this very quiet street and brightened our day. Ken, what was that all about?
Oh, my goodness. That was so much fun. We mind you, we're about 4 or 5 pubs into our pub crawl at this point, so we're feeling really good anyway. And we're just minding our own business. We cross a street and we hit the sidewalk, and there's a couple of guys walking past us in the opposite direction, and a couple of other people that still have to cross the street. There's a chap riding a bike down the middle of the road, and I didn't realize that he was on the phone. I just thought maybe he was really frustrated by the fact that he was getting wet. Quiet little street, 2 pubs on each side, and all of a sudden, out of the clear blue in the most angry, vile voice you could imagine, "What the fuck off?" comes out of this guy's mouth. And I turned and I said, "It's only rain, man. It's only rain." And we start laughing so hard. And then the rest of the weekend, every time something would happen, that was the phrase we would look at each other.
Yeah, Simon just sent me a text and said, "What the fuck off?"
Yeah.
So the way I perceive this, it's kind of like the Venn diagram of an exclamation of WTF, and then he's cussing at someone, and fuck is in the middle.
Yeah.
It's what the fuck off. So he was clearly in exclamation of something, and at the same time was cursing. I was like, I'm confused. What's your message here, buddy? But yeah, it became the word du jour every day over the weekend. It was quite surreal. I know that has nothing to do with the football, but it was a quality little experience as we
it was
progressed
anything.
through.
If we were standing on the escalators coming off the underground and someone bumped us, we would turn, and it was a WTFO moment. Every little thing that we could find.
WTFO, love it.
But your big day. I know, right? That's probably the first time I ever said that on this show. But your big day prior to the match together was Friday, right? It was like that was your big Spurs day prior to your big Spurs
and again,
day.
you had to work, so you weren't able to go to the training ground.
I did, and I was very envious because I was checking my phone from our trading floor, like you with Ledley King, you with Lamela. So tell us all, because that looked
I've kind of I had to write a bunch of notes. I think I did this when I was on the train to see my son on Sunday. And I just had to write, and it just went on and on and on. So here's kind of what I've got in my notebook just from Friday, and I had very low expectations. So those were well exceeded. And, it started with, there was 4 of us that went to the training ground. My mate Steve, Lewis Oxley had come all the way up from Exeter, honourable Dallas Spurs member. Ken and myself. We picked Ken up off the M25 at Cockfosters, went round to the training ground. We got there early, but we weren't the earliest ones there. There were already a few folks there, so we all gathered, having a chat, having a cup of coffee. They invited us to write down some questions and announced that Ledley King would be doing a Q&A, and Coity was there. What a top fella Paul Coit is. So it was a pleasure to have him there and to meet him. Mm-hmm. And for those of you who don't know who he is, he does all the stadium announcing, pre and halftime. In fact, he did the Brad Friedel announcement at the match on Saturday. So to meet him, and what a character! He's a proper compare with his humour and his banter. That was great. I met my mate Trevor Webb from the Academy, who took care of us with the tickets, and I've got some nice trinkets for our Dallas Spurs members when we have our end of season party this year. Sorry, this Sunday. So we had a Q&A with Ledley King. In fact, answered both of our questions. Ken, you wanted to know when he was going to come over.
When can I pencil you in for a night with Ledley in Dallas?
Yeah, he didn't say no, so that's great. And I asked him what his most memorable match was, and he answered that. Of course, it was the Carling Cup final. Yep. I think any time you win a trophy with a club,
that's got to be it.
Yeah, particularly a club like Spurs, who don't seem to do it too often these days. We met a lot of the other supporters clubs. There were supporters clubs from Russia, Sweden, Malaysia, Thailand, Hong Kong. We were the only representatives from the US, which was kind of strange. I thought there'd be a lot more there. We had some folks from Ireland and all around the UK. Swindon tended to get picked on.
Yeah,
not sure
Spurs
why.
Showed up from up the street.
I had to do a testimonial for Spurs TV, which was pretty nerve-wracking, but hopefully it never sees the light of day.
I pray that it does.
It was total pony.
What did they ask you?
Oh, really off-the-wall questions about being in a supporters club, and I had to just fumble my way through a response that I felt was worthy of coming out of my mouth, and it was rubbish. We saw the new home kit. It was there on a mannequin from the Spurs shop, which was quickly whisked away at the end, because that was the morning it was launched, and for us to see it within a couple of hours of the Facebook launch was pretty cool, and I think we immediately liked it from the get-go, and after that we sodded off to the Spurs shop and spent way too much money.
Yeah, and just to give you guys some perspective too on how this whole thing unfolds, is that the club has a supporters club annual every year like this. So they put us into the auditorium, and all the people from the supporters clubs are sitting there, and Stacy, who is the I guess like the director of everything that goes on with the
she's the liaison officer.
Liaison officer. She did such a remarkable job organizing this, and she was the one. We were all very appreciative of the club, and we got to express that with questions and talking to Ledley and whatnot. But she was the one who was thanking us, and they gave us figures and facts about how exponentially the supporters networks around the globe have grown. Excuse me, whether it be North America, Europe, Asia, or wherever, and the numbers are they continue to climb. But Paul, he emceed the thing, so it was almost like he was doing any kind of other awards, events type thing, and was very funny, very typical dry British humor combined with a lot of stuff that everybody could laugh at, and he found really funny ways to laugh at himself. They showed us the videos that were showed at halftime of the whole match. They showed us prior, which were new release videos. They had the Player of the Year and Goal of the Year candidate videos. We got to watch those, and then they showed us who won. And then those two players came into the room and were also Q&A'd, which was Lamela and Kane. Lamela for the Rabona, and Kane for Player of the Year. Excuse me. And
did they bring the defibrillator out for you?
All right, first of all,
man down, man down.
Right, first of all, piss off.
Sorry, I couldn't resist.
Coity was funny because he was interviewing Lamela, and as everyone knows, Eric spoke zero English when he came here last year, and now he speaks a very shit broken English. So
like very like Aussie 1980s like.
Yeah, it's
it's worse than Ricky Beer circa 1980.
Yeah, it's basically Eric, how do you feel about the goal?
I very good.
No, it's I insert 7 different adjectives all at once here.
And he said something along the lines of, I didn't know that I did it till afterwards as well. Seriously, you didn't realize your right foot was behind your left?
Yeah. He said, I think he was really struggling for words. He really was.
He was.
Poor guy.
He was.
So, but Coity asked him about 5 or 6 questions, and it was really cool. Everybody gave him a standing ovation. They did a drawing, so each one of the awards that were given out were won by somebody in the room, so they got to actually present the award to them, and I thought that was a really cool something that the club did for everybody. Kane came in, he got Player of the Year. That had to be 10, 12, 15 minutes almost that they did Q&A together up there. That was really cool. Harry, you could tell he was really appreciative that everybody was there. You could tell he was a little shy or maybe embarrassed even, to win the award. And
he's a humble chap. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah, it was very humbling for him. But it was really cool. And then they went outside, took a big giant group photo. Those two were able to stand around probably for about a good 5 to 8 minutes before literally people were grabbing them by the arm that worked for the club and said, nope, you're done, you're going this way. Excuse me, I managed to get a picture with Lamela. I got autograph from Ledley. Got a picture with Ledley. I got pictures with Kane. He may as well have been standing next to me, but he was actually taking some other pictures with India Spurs at the time. And before I could get just an individual photo with him, they whisked him away. But I know Lewis got a really good selfie with him, and a few others that we had bumped into. So everybody seemed to have a really good time. The club I felt did a really good job. And